Okay, so I wanted to go over a couple ideas and some strategies about our homework assignment today before I let you guys go ahead and start building it. Now, if you think about it, our homework is another great opportunity for us to continue to use and apply the Bevel Tool. But we can't forget about our core technique here, the underlying thought process that we have to go through to construct something of high resolution and high quality. Let's just jump back over to the assignment sheet real fast and take a specific look at what we're going to be expected to build. So your job this week, and let's just cruise back over to the week 4 module. Of course, we are building our coffee cup. It's a rite of passage. Everyone has to do a coffee cup at one point or another. This is the 3D modeling version of the bouncing ball. Everyone's got to do it. Excuse me, right? And there's a reason why we choose to start and begin with the coffee cup, right? Because if you take a step back and you look at what we've been looking at over the last couple weeks, it continues this idea that every model begins with a simple shape deconstruction, right? So what basic simple shape is our coffee cup? It's a cylinder, right? So we already automatically know what tool that we're going to use to build our coffee cup. Now, we start with something cylinder like a circle or a cylinder, right? And then using the Bevel tool, we can very quickly add and infuse our cylinder with a lot of really meaningful and compelling detail that's going to make us get what you see here, okay? Or very similar to what you see here, okay? I went a little step further and added like, cool logo on it and stuff. If you know how, I'm not going to say no, but I'm not going to go over the process of doing that for this assignment, okay? So here's really kind of a better indication of the target that we're trying to achieve here. It's a simple description of the overall geometry. We're also going to throw in some colors this week. If you looked at some of the bonus materials that I gave you in your learning resources last week, you probably discovered how to apply materials, basic colors to simple polygons. Well, I want to go over that here in a minute so that way everyone's on the same page. Okay? In addition, I've given you 2 collections of assets that I want you to look at. Let's just download them real fast to our local computer so you can take a look at them. Like everything, we're going to have a backdrop image that we can use as a glorified tracing guide. But I've also given you guys some really great reference images as well. Let's take a look at both of these packages, and I'm just going to put them on my desktop for a moment. Okay, so the blueprint, once you archive it, it really is just a gigantic JPEG of our coffee cup, okay? In every sense, this is going to be our tracing guide. Now, I want you to shed the idea that we're cheating. We're not cheating. This is part of our process, right? We use these images as tracing guides to help us very quickly and accurately get to the end result, okay? Everyone thinks they know what a car looks like, but if you were to try to build one without any sort of reference to guide you to the result, it's going to look wrong every single time, okay? We'll come back to this blueprint here in a second, but check it out. It's also important that we understand what a coffee cup actually looks like, okay? So here's a photograph of said coffee cup. Now, what are we getting from these reference photographs that aren't necessarily apparent and visualized inside that simple little blueprint? Yeah, so you get a much better understanding of some of the finer detail on the lid, okay? We want to basically pair blueprints with photographs as much as we can. The blueprints are a natural starting place, but the photograph often fills in the details of where the blueprints kind of are lacking a little bit, okay? So it's a good technique and a good practice to find as much information as we possibly can on the objects that we're trying to create so that we can recreate them accurately and quickly, okay? We have a pretty big responsibility on our hands, right, as 3D modelers. It's our job to recreate the reality of the designs that are given to us, okay? Arming ourselves with as much information as we can is going to help us get something pretty cool, okay? All right, let's jump back over into Modo real fast and start using some of these elements to help us achieve what we're here to achieve. I want to jump in, and I got a new empty scene file here. How do I load that coffee cup image as a backdrop item? Walk me through the steps.
You go to the add item.
I like it. So we'll initially begin by traveling up into our item list up here where it says add item. I like it. Add item. Then backdrop item right there. Good. I like that. Okay. Now with the backdrop item inserted into our scene, we can very quickly see and understand that this is an empty container. So let's put something in this briefcase and populate our scene with that lovely background image. Where am I going inside of my interface to do this? You got it. And more specifically, Jesse, you're absolutely right. We're going into our Properties tab, into the Backdrop Properties. Okay? The Backdrop category of properties that are kind of in the middle part of that area. Okay? We get this lovely image well here. If I click on the button, it gives me what's called and referred to as the clip browser. And we'll choose Add Clip, Load Image. We'll go find where we saved that picture. There it is. Oof. It's gigantic, and voila. Wunderbar. That's great. Now it's just chilling inside of our three-dimensional scene. Once we get it in, though, we're not done with its initial setup. There's a couple other things in here that we need to roll through to make sure that we're able to use this image correctly and kind of efficiently inside of our modeling pipeline. What's next? So we bring it in. What's next, do you think? Two? Bingo. I like it. And most importantly, the positive Y, right? Let's do this. I'm going to look at my scene from the front. Okay? Now, a couple of you guys were wondering how else we can navigate through all of our scene views without having to go into this menu. You guys saw me do this in the video. I get this little pie menu thingamajig, right? To get that pie menu, hold down the Control and Spacebar keys simultaneously, and you'll get this pie menu. And you can navigate to whatever perspective it is that you want to navigate to. Okay? I'm so used to working with this pie menu that, kind of instinctually, I don't even think about it anymore, right? I just know that to hold down Control Spacebar and flick to the upper right-hand corner, I'm going perspective. Like that's right, that's left, that's bottom, that's top. I mean, I'm not even thinking about it anymore. Okay, let's look at my scene from the front. And in addition, I'm going to return to my viewport navigation, or excuse me, my viewport properties, and enable the visibility of my grid. Because I want to see the grid. And most importantly, I want to see the grid in relationship to the placement of my backdrop item. Now, at the moment, can I see through my backdrop item to my grid? No. So what do I need to change? Of the backdrop item. You got it, right? So if I have that backdrop item selected, go. I'll select my backdrop item. It's down here in our backdrop category of properties. There it is, transparency. I like 70%, but use whatever makes sense for you. There is no wrong way of doing this, okay? And now I can see through my backdrop item to my grid behind it. Okay, so why am I doing this? Well, I want to be a good steward of my scene, right? I initially want to create my coffee cup where it probably would initially live, like on the ground, right? So if we raise the backdrop image up so that the bottom of the picture, or the bottom of the coffee cup in the picture, so right here, this big black line, if that's sitting on the middle of the y-axis, that's a good place to begin, right? That's a foundation that's built on stone. Let's do it real fast. Now, backdrop items are items, so I need to make sure that I'm in the items selection set, and then I can click on my backdrop item and simply activate the move tool. And I'm just going to pull it up so that big black line is just chilling right in there-ish. I like it. Wonderful. That's good. That's good. Yes, ma'am. Good question. Okay, so if you can't see through your mesh, and I'll just throw in a unit primitive cube in here, okay? If you can't see through it like that, how can we change our viewport properties to get us this result? Yeah, so we'll back to our viewport properties, the O key, and then specifically, where in here am I going?
Your first tab and your
You got it. So drawing and control, and specifically, we want to make sure that overlaying drawing is enabled. You can almost see it in the background here. This is what it looks like with it off, and then with it on. Okay. If that doesn't do it, go all the way down to the bottom here. There's a secondary background imagery section. Make sure that overlay down at the bottom is also enabled. Yep. Okay. All right. So let's get rid of my little cube here. And things are starting to look pretty good. Okay. Now we want to work through this as quickly as we can. At the end of this, we're going to have probably what should be two pieces, two separate, discontiguous pieces. Okay? So we'll have a cup, and then we'll have a lid for a cup. Now when it comes to modeling, we want to make sure that we're setting up our future animators with the best tools and resources that we have. Okay? We want to give them the ability to go in after the fact and maybe animate the lid popping off the cup. Or maybe we as an author want to go in and create some renders where we don't have the lid on the cup, right? If it's all one piece, it's kind of a limiting factor inside of the rest of our pipeline, right? For the gals and guys that come after us. So it's good to model things as they actually live out here in the real world, okay? I'm a big believer that the more we think like a craftsperson, the easier 3D modeling is, right? How would you make this cup if you were an actual coffee cup maker? I don't know what they would be called, right? That's a good question. Huh? Package designer, sure, right? I love it because the package is the, huh? Ceramicist. Potter. I love it. Yes. Or paper compression maker guy. I don't know. Paper compression machine, right. Excuse me. Anyways, okay, so if you think more like the person that would actually make it, believe it or not, the process of 3D modeling becomes a whole lot easier, okay? Because we now have a vision of what it is that we're trying to create. So here's what I would recommend that you do. And I'm going to start it off. I'm not going to do all of this for you, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a guide and a suggestion on how we can begin to create the base of our coffee cup. So as we discovered earlier, what simple shape is our coffee cup? It is a cylinder. So we automatically know which tool we're going to use, right? Let's create a cylinder real fast. I need to go into my empty mesh item. There we go. And I'm going to create a cylinder that's got a good number of sides on it. Okay? Let's do, oh, I don't know. Let's do 36. And once again, I'm going to try to create a perfect circle. Okay? If you need a little bit of a refresher, of course they have that video on Canvas that will help. But I'm simply going to left click once, move my tool handle away, then hold down the control key and left click and drag. Whoops, it's not stopping because of my zoom in thing. Okay? Now, we have a little bit of a problem here. My circle is just gigantic in reference to my backdrop item, right? So there's two things I need to do: make it smaller and move it to the location of my backdrop item, right? Let's do the low-hanging fruit first, right? How do I move my cylinder here, my circle, to the exact same location as the backdrop item? Center selected, absolutely. What's center selected ultimately going to do? And what's the center called? The origin. Where's the default location, the default placement of all backdrop items? The origin. Right? You're starting to see the idea that the origin is a central part of our workflow. So we're going to use that center selected command to get everything all lined up. Now I'm going to choose center selected and then all, and it's going to move my big disk here over to the origin of my scene. Okay? Okay, now it's gigantic, so I'm going to hit the R key and begin to scale this guy down to match my reference. Okay. Let's look at it from the front and see what we got here. Awesome. I think that's pretty good. You just have to be close, okay? Just have to be close. Now, we're going to grow this thing like a skyscraper. So our Bevel Tool, which we just spent some time exploring in our lab today, is going to be the tool of choice to very quickly go in and begin to grow this shape. And this really kind of represents the power of the Bevel Tool, because I can, of course, do this shift to establish the height of that first section, and then also perform an inset to get the taper. Now, you have to make a choice on yours, right? as to which side of this big black line you're going to align things to. I'm aligning all of my polygons to the outside of the black line. Doesn't matter, but just have a side and stick to a side. If you're going to do everything on the inside of this black line, that's cool. But just know which side of the line you live on. Okay, so with the bevel tool still active, I'll check this out. I'm going to start creating the illusion of this cardboard sleeve on the inside. So how do I reapply the tool without dropping the tool or the selection? Yeah, shift, click, and FYI, this is a global moto shortcut. It's going to work with every tool. So if you want to refire a different tool, okay, shift, click, it will refire it off again. Okay, you'll see this going forward in the future when our tool set continues to expand a little bit more directly.
So you can do it for a different tool?
Yeah, absolutely.
Jump between them?
Yep. Well, you can't jump between tools, but you can reapply the tool that's active.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to shift, hold on a sec. Yep. Shift, click. I'm going to grow that polygon straight out. This is the cool thing about working with the bevel tool. If you just do an inset, see how you can just grow it out horizontally. And then once again, shift, click. I'm going to pull up on the blue handle and then do an inset at the exact same time. There we go. Shift, click. There it is. And that's as far as I'm going to go for your homework this week, because I'm not going to do everything for you guys, right? And I'll let you continue to explore the rest of it. Okay? This is the beginning of my coffee cup, and things are starting to look pretty good. However, we have some problems. Okay? Look down here at the bottom of our mesh, and let me just turn off my grid. All right. What is my gigantic problem chilling down here at the bottom of my mesh? I got a hole. I got a gigantic opening. This is a product of using the bevel command. It's always, always, always going to create a hole at the bottom of your geometry. Now, there's an easy fix for this. We don't have to start over. This is not like a complete redo, but we do need to add some additional information in here to fill that selection or to fill that opening. So here's the cool trick. If we go into our edge selection set, and then double-click on the edge loop that comprises the opening of our coffee cup, the magical keyboard shortcut is P. P as in Pat, P as in Polygon. Okay? And that's going to fill the selection, in our case an edge loop, with the polygon. Check it out. Boom. Cool, huh? And now we have a complete shape down there. Okay? It's all watertight. Okay. I want to explore one other thing with you guys that you may or may not run into when it comes to working with your coffee cup this week. Let's do this. I'm going to fire off another bevel. This time, I'm going to bevel down like this. So in every sense, I'm trying to create the illusion of the inside of my coffee cup here. But we get some pretty wacky geometry showing up inside the viewport, right? This is pretty strange, and it gives us a great opportunity to talk about a foundation level principle when it comes to working with 3D geometry, and that's the surface normal, the surface direction, okay? If you look at what's going on in here, the computer is having a real hard time describing some geometry, okay? So I got that big polygon down here at the bottom that I just moved up, okay? There it is. Then what's happening as it's traveling south here? Yeah, it's actually the base of that polygon is wider than the base of the coffee cup, and it's kind of poking out the edges, right? Polygons aren't going to stop at the walls, right? There's nothing inside of the system that's going to prevent polygons from crossing through each other. We want this actually, right? But we have to be aware of it, okay? It happens quite often, and if you're not paying attention to what the computer's doing, this is most likely the result that you're going to get, okay? Even more confusing when you jump over to your render. I mean, maybe you don't recognize or see that initially, and then you jump out here and you're like, whoa. And then you book it over to my office during office hours and you go, Pat, WTF, what is going on, right? And I want to say, sit down, let's chat about something called a surface normal, okay? In the world of computer graphics, 3D computer graphics, every surface is defined by a direction, okay? A polygon can only ever face one direction inside of a scene, okay? That direction is called its normal. Don't ask me why it's called a normal, it just is, right? Okay? That surface normal defines a number of different things. Think of it just like the way it's facing, right? A polygon can only face that way. It can't face two directions at the exact same time. Right now, all of these polygons down at the bottom, their surface normal is facing inwards, okay? It's facing inwards. When the render camera, or even just our OpenGL viewport, is looking at a polygon whose normal is facing almost the opposite direction, they're going to show up as invisible, or, as we saw on the render, as black, okay? These polygons are like walls, but these walls can only be seen from one direction. If we're on the opposite side of that normal, they're going to show up like black, like that, okay? Here, let me show you another great way of visualizing a surface normal, okay? Now, I'm opening Pandora's box here, and I want you to be, I want you to reset Pandora's box, because it's something that I really can't recommend that you have on, because it kind of gets in the way. But it's a good visualization of what a surface normal is. Well, it's not a visualization of what it is. It is the surface normal, okay? So I've kind of pulled that big polygon up a little bit, and I want to open up my Viewport Properties. And if you go into the visibility section, shows selection normals, okay? Okay, so it's only going to show you the surface normal of the selected component piece. And I got that big polygon on the top selected, and I recognize that it's probably hard to see on our projector here, but do you see that little dotted line coming from the center of the surface? That's the surface normal. That's the exclusive direction that this polygon is facing inside of our scene, okay? When we have polygons whose surface normals are flipped or are, an opposite of what we see, let's just do this, okay? Now that top polygon surface normal is always facing up. What about these in here? Yeah, they're facing inwards and their surface normal's in the middle. They're facing inward right now, okay? If I was to grab maybe these guys on the outside, see how these guys are facing out? And on the inside, they're facing in, okay? The ones that are facing in are going to be are facing in the opposite direction of our render camera over here in our viewport. They show up black, okay? Now, surface normals are something that we can fix, something we can change. From time to time, the computer gets a little confused as to the direction that this surface should be facing. If you need to change a surface normal, you absolutely can. Let me give you a really great example of what this looks like, okay? I'm going to grab this entire row here. You can see the cool little spikes coming out of it. So they're all facing outwards. Generally speaking, we always need to have polygons facing outwards on the outside of things, and then inwards on the insides of things, right? However, there is a magical keyboard shortcut here that we can employ to fix a surface normal problem if there was one. And it's the F key, okay? And the F key, as you can see, flips our surface normals. They're still there. All those polygons are still there. They're just facing inside now versus outside. Facing inside, hit the F key. Now they're facing outside, okay? If you see big black spots on your render, okay, or if you don't see your mesh from a single view, if it's seemingly invisible from one angle, but then you rotate around and you see the polygon from another, that's a good indication that your surface normals have got messed up somehow, and you're going to have to manage this, okay? In addition, pay real close attention to when your polygons poke through the outsides of your walls, like they had a minute ago when I did this. Now, luckily for us, fixing this problem is pretty easy. What's the solution here? just scale it down, right? We want those polygons to be on the inside of the cup. So if I hit this R key to scale, yeah, now they're not poking through the outside of the cup, and life is good. Okay? All right, I want to show you one other thing. And I'm going to copy my coffee cup here real fast. Copy, edit, paste. I'll fire off the move tool to give me two of them. Part of being a good 3D modeler is having the vision of what good 3D modeling really looks like, okay? Because there's a lot of bad 3D models out there. We want to be good 3D modelers, okay? We're going to make a comparison between these two images here in the render in about a couple seconds, okay? If we go over into our render environment and take a look-see at what we have here, man, these look very fake, right? They don't look like real coffee cups at all. In our world, we're always looking to recreate the proper transitions between the different planes on our object, okay? So if you imagine the lip of our coffee cup being a plane going this way horizontally, and then the cardboard sleeve is another plane going vertically like that, I need to adjust the transition between those two planes, so like this area right in here, okay? The computer does an outstanding job of creating these planes for us, but it doesn't look real because it's missing one critical component, and it's a radius, a rounded edge, okay? We don't have the manufacturing capabilities right now to make a perfect 90 degrees planar transitions between two surfaces, okay? We just don't, right? It might appear as though we're very, very close. And if you look at these iMacs here, you're probably thinking, well, Pat, it kind of looks like it's kind of 90 degrees. Well, run your finger along the edge, right? If it was perfectly 90 degrees, you would cut yourself instantly, right? We have small little radiuses around every single plane transition out here in the real world, okay? If you think about it, most things that we, in most manufacturing facilities, are using drill bits or little lasers or even little streams of water to cut metal, right? All of that, all three of those are a volume, okay? It's a shape, a defined shape that's based off of a curve, right? A curve is never going to create a perfectly straight line. It's impossible. You can't do it, right? A perfect 90-degree transition, excuse me. Can't do it. We can get close. We can get 89.95, but we can't make 90, a 90-degree transition. So we need to look to infuse these small little radiuses on everything. And good 3D modelers do this at the outset, at the conclusion of their basic flush out and rough out of their model. Add little radiuses, little edge bevels in there. Believe it or not, this one small little thing pays huge dividends in the believability and the realism of the object that you're modeling. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to leave this one over here alone. I'm not going to touch it at all. And I'm going to do some just simple edge beveling to this friend on the right, and we'll compare and contrast the results. Okay? Let's jump back over into my modeling tab and focus on what we can do to this guy to infuse a little bit more believability. Of course, let's do some edge beveling. Initially, I'm going to start selecting some edge loops. And I'm going to do that one and its inside neighbor here at the exact same time. And then I can create that radius with the bevel command. I love the bevel tool. It's just a great super tool. Cool. I usually leave it at a round level of 0 to really understand the edit that I'm making. Look at it from a number of different perspectives. At a round level of 0, you get a real solid understanding of the transition that you're creating between these two different planes. And somewhere right around there is pretty great. Of course, you don't want to make it into a V. That's not what we're after here. We still want to have a nice little flat area, but we want it to be nice and rounded. So once I define the distance of the radius, now it's time to go in and increase the quality of it by increasing the round level. Okay? Don't go crazy on this. I'll be honest with you. I never go higher than a value of 4 or 5. And it needs to be a pretty high resolution object for me to go to 4, or even 5 for that matter. 3 is a good stopping point, because as you can see here, the moment we start increasing the round level, we're logarithmically adding more geometry into your mesh. Okay? There comes a point where you're not going to see or understand or notice the benefits of having more edge loops in that area, right? Especially in small little pieces, small little radiuses on the tip of a coffee cup lid. this is a while ago. I'm going to drop the tool. I had a while ago. That's looking pretty great. This is a while ago. I think this is maybe my first or second year teaching. I had a young lady wave me over to her machine, as you guys often do during lab, and she's like, Pat, it keeps crashing on me. Every time I open up my project file and it crashes like instantly the moment I try to do an edge bevel, right? I said, okay, let's see what we're going on here. And she was trying to do an edge bevel, but she had put her round level on like 200. And she was creating like 1,000,000 polygons on like the smallest little area. And at that time, Moto went, and then it crashed every single time. So you got to be careful with this, right? You are physically adding a lot of geometry in a really small area, okay? So at a round level of 3, you can see we get some pretty good results in there. Let's do the exact same thing on these fellers down here. I'm just going to left click and drag a little bit. There we go. And I'm not going to worry about the bottom initially. But let's just compare. Let's go back to our render here for a second and compare and contrast what's happening because of those small little radiuses. Okay? Now look carefully. They are there. And you're probably thinking, Pat, you're crazy. And I am. That's certifiable. Let's get them closer so we can really zoom in and take a look at it. Yeah, but notice the difference between the two. Remember, the one on the left, those two surfaces don't have any sort of edge beveling on, and the one on the right, I've just given a small little radius. I've knocked the corners off a little bit, if you will. Okay? How does it feel? It feels more real, right? The light is catching a little differently along those areas. We're getting a small specular highlight that's being caught along the rim of my coffee cup, right? Exactly how the light would interact with that rim here out there in the real world. Yeah?
For some place like where the holder is around the cup, you know that you bevel that area, but since it's technically not supposed to be connected, would there be a case for not wanting to do it around there?
You could definitely make that case, for sure. Right. Yeah, I think for today, I'm happy that I just want you guys to bevel some edges.
Sure.
Yeah. that's my expectation. But yeah, if this was in the real world, right, those are going to be two separate pieces, right? So the edge radius wouldn't round out like that. It would round up and under as the cardboard continues to, deform into itself. Yeah, let's not worry about that level of crazy detail today, though. But these small little radiuses go a long, long way of helping suspend disbelief and create the illusion. Because remember, this is a gigantic trick. We're trying to trick our audience into believing that something, a whole series of flat polygons in the computer looks like a coffee cup. It's just a trick. That's all it is. Okay. But these small little additions to our process helps us get some really great results. Okay. All right. I don't like this one anymore, so I'm going to delete it. And we're going to spend the rest of our time today talking about what we have so far in here. Now, I want to add some very simple colors into this system. Okay. Now, if you looked at one of the bonus videos that I gave you last week, some of you guys have already begun to explore the application of color into our scenes. And I want everyone to go in and add a couple materials to our objects this week so that we can start colorizing and bringing our artwork to life, okay? Because right now, it's kind of boring. Let's get some color in here. Like everything inside of the world of Moto, it begins and ends with a selection. Let's return to our modeling tab real fast and start this process, okay? Now, I have a little bit of a trick here, or a little bit of a challenge in front of me, in that I want my cardboard sleeve to be brown, and then maybe I want all of this jazz down here to be, I don't know, a different color, okay? Then the lid will be black. Maybe it's, I don't know, the holidays and Starbucks has their iconic red Christmas cups, right? Was it one year they didn't have a red one and like the world like revolted, right? It's crazy. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just a coffee cup. But we need to make some selections, okay? Because huh? So we need to make some pretty big selections because the application of color is linked directly to what we have selected first. Okay? So if I want to make the base of my coffee cup red and the sleeve brown, I need to select all of the polygons that I want to be red first. Okay? Or separately from the other ones. Now, you're more than welcome to go in and start selecting stuff just kind of by hand. Right? You can do this. Just hold down the shift key and go crazy. That's good. I mean, I'm all for that. Yay. Okay? But if you have a pretty high-resolution coffee cup like I do, you're going to be sitting here selecting stuff for a long, long time. Okay? And you may miss a couple. Okay? Especially on those small areas where we just added those radiuses. If you really take a step back and look at it, there's some teeny tiny polygons in there that we might accidentally miss. So let's talk about some other methods of selecting things inside of Modo that will help us select things quickly and accurately. First and foremost, let's talk about the loop selection system. Now, if you remember back to what we were talking about before, loops come in two different flavors, right? What are the two different flavors of loops? You got it. Polys and edges. Great job. Okay? Now, we can ask the computer to automatically select an edge loop just by double-clicking on it, right? But if we were to double-click on a poly loop, what would happen? It selects the whole thing, so that's not going to work, right? However, if we select two or more polygons on the loop that we're trying to select, this is the loop that I'm trying to select. So I got to select two. I can't select one. That's not going to work, right? We need to tell the computer which loop to select, so we got to select two or more on that loop. And then the L key, L as in loop, will select the rest for us. Okay? Great, 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 powerful addition to our selection engine. Okay? L for loop when working with polygons. There's another way that we can quickly, if you want, to select some polygons. Once again, we have to select two or more in order on that excuse me, on that row. And then check it out, the up arrow will keep repeating that selection pattern all the way around the loop. It's actually a really kind of neat system. Check this out. So if you select that one and then that one, it's going to repeat the selection pattern all the way around the loop with up arrow. However, if you wanted to select every other polygon for, check this out. Select that one, skip that, hold down the shift key, grab that one. Then up arrow is going to remember that pattern. That's cool, right? You can even keep going crazy with this if you like. Maybe skip two. There you go. Great, great system of selecting things. I think Modo has the best selection system in the business. I really do mean that. I spend a lot of time in Maya, and Maya has a horrible selection system. It's quite bad. Selecting things is kind of our bread and butter. It's the one thing that we do all the time, and Modo has the best, in my opinion. There's one other power trick that I want to show you, and sometimes you have to think a little bit creatively on how you're going to select big groups of polygons quickly. We have the ability, so the up arrow is going to repeat a selection pattern, okay? However, if we start at like the bottom here, if we hold down the shift and up arrow, it's going to radially expand our selection by one row at a time. Okay? This is really cool for working in cylinders. Okay? Because I've selected the bottom here. Shift up arrow grabs the next row. And this is where it becomes super powerful, because check it out under here. I'm also going to do shift up arrow. Bloop, 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 bloop. It goes up one row. Okay? So it's expanding our selection by one loop at a time. Shift up arrow. Same thing goes in reverse. Shift down arrow. Oops, I went down arrow too far. There we go. Shift up arrow. Rock and roll. Life is good. Okay? Great, great additions to our selection engine to help us select things fast. Okay? All right, now that we have some meaningful selections, we can use them to power the application of a material, okay? Next week, I think it's next week, I'm pretty sure it's next week, we're going to spend the entire day talking about materials, okay? I know a lot of you guys have been chomping at the bit to really explore the rendering side of our 3D art pipeline. That's going to happen next week, and all of our time is going to be spent looking at materials and rendering. Okay, it's going to be an important day. Don't miss next week because it's one of those days where it's going to be real heavy. Okay. But for today, let's just look at how we colorize things, how we apply simple materials and begin to extract these polygons from the influence of the base material. Okay? So applying a new material is super easy. However, like everything in Modo, we have to have a selection first. What's the keyboard shortcut for adding a new material? M. M as in material. Okay? So if we hit the M key, you're going to get this cool little popover that says Polygon Set Material. And the first thing that we need to do inside of this popover is change the name, okay? We don't want it to be default, okay? If we leave it at default, it's actually going to be assigned to something really important called the base material, which we don't want it to be assigned to. More on that literally next week. But for us, let's just give it a cool name. Let's just call it red, okay? And then naturally, we're going to change its color just by clicking on any of these numbers. Get the cool OS little crayons here. I love my crayons, my colored pencils. They used to be crayons, now they're colored pencils, right? They pop up. You know, Apple has a pretty, I don't know if it's like this anymore, but Apple has a pretty great reputation for having the most extreme attention to detail, right? I've actually seen a video of this, so I can confirm that this is not actually, a fallacy. But when the first time you open up your iOS color picker, I don't know what it's like in the colored pencils, but I'm sure it's the same. But when they used to be in like the last version of the OS, they used to be crayons, right? All the crayons would have perfectly sharp points, as if you had just opened up the crayon box. And then the next, so you pick a color, and then the next time you use it, all the crayons are like rounded over as if you've been using the crayons for a bit, right? Crazy attention to detail in the Mac world, which I love. I want to use, let's see, what's an appropriate color for our coffee cup? How about maraschino? I love cherries. And then we'll hit OK. And then lastly, we'll hit OK once more. And there it is. Okay. Now the base of our coffee cup's red. Now we're going to need to do the exact same thing for the inside, okay, of our coffee cup. So I'm going to select that one. Help me out. How do I radially expand my selection one loop at a time? Shift up arrow. I love it. It's my great selection engine, okay? Shift up arrow. Boom. Okay? And maybe I want, and I got to make a decision when my cardboard sleeve begins and ends. And that's a good right there. So I want those polygons to also be red. What's the keyboard shortcut that assigns a material to those polygons? M. M for material. Okay? So once again, I'll hit the M key. However, this time, I don't need to give it a new name, because if you look up here, the first time that we give it a new name, it actually gets stored in a small list. So find the color that you've already created, if you have in fact created one, and select it from your list and hit OK. There we go. And we're on our way. Cool, huh? Sometimes it can get challenging to select polygons when they're and to assign to. Let me rephrase it. Sometimes it can be a challenge to work in really dense polygonal areas, especially when we have to make very fine, small selections between rows, right? We don't want to accidentally leave something out or accidentally assign a material to the wrong polygon. So let me show you a great trick. This is something that I do for all of the stuff that I'm working on. The moment I assign a material to that area, I hide those polygons. So just get them out of the way for a second. So I'm going to do shift up arrow here. Now I want to temporarily hide those polygons so I don't accidentally assign them to the wrong material. To hide some polygons, hit the H key. H is in hide. And it's going to turn their visibility off. It's going to feel like you've just deleted them, but you haven't. You've just turned their visibility off. That's all you've done. And now I'm free to go in and shoot, let's do this. Do the exact same thing on the bottom. Shift, excuse me, shift up arrow a couple times. Boop, boop. There we go. What's the keyboard shortcut to hide? H. Oof. And now I can very easily see the remainder, what's left. You just double click on it, hit the M key to apply material, and we'll call this, I don't know, brown. There it is. So if H is to hide, how do I unhide? U. Yeah. H is to hide. U is to unhide. I can't control that. So, yeah. H is hide, U is unhide. Okay? And now we've signed some custom materials that will help start colorizing our object. Okay? It's a nice way to start visually separating out all these parts and pieces. Without these materials in our scene, our coffee cup is just all one color. Now that we've separated them out, we're starting to make some visual connections with color. All the stuff that's red is implied that it's the exact same object, and everything else that's this nice mocha brown is visually kind of collecting themselves under one group. If we return to our render, poof, there it is. And it's beginning to look a little bit like a coffee cup. Cool, huh? Pretty neato. All right, questions, comments, concerns about your coffee cup homework assignment? Yeah.
Okay, so we are basically modeling one cup, one sleeve, and then the lid for it. Not piece, piece, piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so the cup and the...
It really has to actually, like, it would assemble, not, oh, let's flip them all.
Yeah, if you can, I mean, try to make it work, right? Try to make it work and behave like it actually would. However, though, this is still an illusion. So if it's not perfect, don't worry about it, right? It's not like I'm going to go in and say, oh, his lid doesn't snap onto his cup. Fail, right? That's not what I'm going to do, you know. There's some interesting little challenges in the coffee cup itself. If you continue to look at the reference that I've given you, I'm not going to give you all of the answers. Come on, Anime, get out of the way. Here we go. Okay, so if you look at the reference that I've given you, this is what an actual coffee cup looks like. Now, geometrically, we've talked about how to create a lot of these illusions ourselves, but there are some other things geometrically, especially on the top of the lid, that you need to figure out, okay, that you don't see in the blueprint. And in every sense, the lid is a great illustration as to why we choose to include photographs into our kind of collection of reference documents, right? Because there's certain parts of the model that just aren't going to show up in the blueprint. The top of the lid is a good indication of that, okay? This is a little bit of a challenge. It's supposed to be a challenge, and I'm not going to tell you how to do it. Okay? I want you to, but if you're very smart people, and I know that you are, some bevels and some moving will help you get the result that you're after. Okay? Yes, sir. Let's find out. What computer number are you? 21. Let's take a look. Maybe we all can learn something from this moment. Okay, show me. It's not. Yeah, that's odd. Okay, do shift up arrow, see what you get. Okay, that's an indication of something. Okay. Interesting. Turn your backdrop item off for a second. Let's explore this. I'm curious how we've landed on this result. Also, do me a favor, Jesse. Can you just deselect those polygons? Hit the tab key. Somehow, and I don't know how you've done this. Okay. There's probably one of two things going on. First and foremost, somehow we've unwelded the polygons at the bottom from the rest of the coffee cup. I'm not sure how you did that. Okay. Yeah. Could be. Here's another landmine that people stumble on from time to time. Okay. And I'm going to guess that maybe you accidentally locked some polygons. I want you to go to the top of the screen where it says View. It's either under View or Select. Let's look in View. It's under Select. I'm sorry. And then, where is it? Oh, maybe it is in View. This is how often I do this. I don't ever do this. Go into Geometry. Oh, gosh. Hold on a second. Where is it? It's under Edit. I'm sorry. It's under the Edit pull-down menu. Couple to your left. There you go. At the very bottom. You may have unlocked your geo. Now see if you can select that stuff. We're back in action. Okay? I'm going to guess that maybe perhaps you accidentally bumped the L key, which is the keyboard shortcut for lock. Lock basically means it's not selectable anymore. What was the question?
How should I unlock it?
It's unlocked now. Yep, everything's ready to go. Because we proved that by, yeah. Yeah, so at that point, I'm not sure what happened there either. Hit the tab, deselect that polygon. Hit the tab key one more time. Now the two that are odd shapes, can you select these two? And then hit the tab key. Okay, cool. Now deselect your mesh and hit the tab key. Yeah, I'm not sure how those. Yeah, I'm not. It could be some duplicate geometry in there. Okay. Yeah, run mesh cleanup. See what you get. So go to the top of the screen where it says Geometry. Mesh cleanup, kind of in the middle of the menu. Hit OK. Yep. One more time. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on down there. On the surface, it looks like they've been unwelded somehow, but I'm not sure how you did that. Don't worry about it. Or what you could do is delete this bottom section, double click down here. Now it's behaving as if it's all one piece. That's odd. Maybe. Oh, you got 36 edges. How many? Is that how many polygons do you have going around the circumference of your? Hit the tab key again, by the way. The tab key is a great way to, it subdivides your mesh. It's a great way to see big problems. Do me a favor, select a poly loop real fast. There you go. Doesn't matter where. Select a loop of polygons going around the outside. There you go. 36, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on the inside of your cup. I don't know. Yeah. It's one of my big challenges is that without watching you guys at every moment, it's kind of tough for me to see what you've done to your geometry. However, you can fix it. You could just delete that problem, fill the polygon, and continue working. Yeah. Okay. All right. Other questions, comments, concerns about our homework over the next 7 days?
Pray for us.
I always do. All right. Yeah. Oh, at the 11th hour. No. Nope. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. Yep. It doesn't make more polygons. It applies a smoothing algorithm to our geometry. It's a great way. We're going to be talking more about that again in the future because that's a very important part of our 3D modeling world. But it's a great way just to see if there's a big problem. Other questions? Yes, sir.
So, like the subdividing the polygons, how it becomes one person. Do you only set that at the beginning of the creation of the object, or can you alter that after the fact?
You can alter it at any time. Other questions? Yeah, in the back, and then I'll get to Sue. So just the move command? Yeah, W. Yeah, so I scaled that bottom polygon in. I made it smaller so that it matched kind of the interior, or it created an interior taper on the cup. Technically, I have. A bevel tool. A bevel tool. Alrighty, folks, good luck. May the force be with you. I'll see you next week. We're good. We're done. Yep.